ANC-ի Ամերիկայի արևելյան շրջանի հայ ազգային կոմիտեի առաջին տարեկան հանդիսավոր ճաշկերույթը տեղի ունեցավ Նյու Յորքի Waldorf Astoria հյուրանոցի սրահներից մեկում։ ANC-ն իր ակտիվ գործող մի քանի կարևոր օղակներով Վաշինգտոնում հայդատի գրասենյակով, արևելյան եւ արևմտյան մասնաճյուղերով, իր երիտասարդական եւ ավանդական կազմակերպություններով բազմաթիվ ազգային ծրագրեր է առաջ տանում եւ Միացյալ Նահանգներում եւ նրա սահմաններից դուրս հայաշատ երկրներում։
Tonight is the first annual banquet for the Armenia National Committee of the Eastern Region, and we are honoring Ambassador John Evans, who was previously the ambassador from the United States to Armenia. And of course, the reason that we're honoring him is for his courageous willingness to speak the truth and to characterize what occurred to the Armenians as a genocide. As we all know, this cost him his job. He was recalled from being an ambassador, and in fact, he was dismissed from the Foreign Service, despite his 35 years of service to the United States government. But we're here tonight to advance the cause of Haitad, and in that process to honor John Evans.
Այս երեգոն ունի երկու կամ երեք հիմնական նպատակներ։ Նախ եւ առաջ ուզեցինք պատվել մեր մոդիկ ընկերները եւ մոդիկ համագիրները առանց իրենց աջակցությունը եւ իրենց մասնակցությունը հայտարարի կորզունեությունը անհնարին է։ Ճիշտ է, ANC-ն ունի իր գրասենյակները, ունի իր բյուջեները, բայց առանց մեր գամավոր աշխատողները եւ համագիրները ովևէ ցևով չեն կրնար հաջողի։ Ադիգա առաջին։ Նաեւ ուզեցինք պատվել մեր շատ հարկո եւ սիրո նախկին տեսփան Ջան Էվենսին, ինչպես բոլոր ժողովուրդը գիտե, Ջան Էվենսին արածը անցյալ տարի հայոց ցեղասպանության վերաբերյալ շատ կարևոր էր եւ արմադականապես կարևոր էր։ Այսինքն ինքը ցեղասպանության իրականությունը հիշեց մինչեւ ծայրաստիճան։ Եվ տեսանք նույնիսկ պետք էր ճշմարտաբար զիջիլ իր ճաշտոնը, իր թիրքը, իր ամեն ինչը, որտեղ դեր գեցավ իրականության, դեր գեցավ ճշմարտության։ Ադիգա երկրորդ։ Իսկ երրորդ կուզենք շատ հագիր, շատ ամբողջ ձևով հայտարարի հանձնախումբի ծրագիրները ներկայացնեն ժողովրդին։ Այս անցած տարվա մեր որոշ հաջողությունները, օրինակ Genocide Resolution-ը, բանաձևը, որ հիմա Կոնգրեսին արժև դրված է, եւ գարկմա այլ նվաճումներ, նաեւ կուզենք նկարագրել քալ դարվա եւ առաջիկա դարվա մեր նելիքները ժողովրդին։
Այս ժողովուրդը տարբեր քաղաքներից եկած համախոհներ եւ համակիրներ են հայ ազգային կոմիտեի։ Այս անգամ ողջունելի երևույթն այն էր, որ ANC-ի հանդիսությանը իրենց ներկայությունն էին բերել նաև ուրիշ հայկական ավանդական կազմակերպությունների ներկայացուցիչներ։ Ընդհանուր առմամբ Սփյուռքում գործող բոլոր միություններն էլ շատ մոտ են իրենց գաղափարախոսությամբ, չհաշված երբեմն ծագող տարաձայնությունները, հիմնականում բոլորի նպատակը հայկական բարդույթների լուծումն է հօգուտ ազգային շահերի։
Բնականաբար այս նախաձեռնությունը Արևելյան Ամերիկայի հայտարարի հանձնախումբի նախաձեռնությունն է, որ իր առաջին առիթն է դրսևորման այս համայնքի մեջ այս դարողությամբ։ Բայց այս առիթի երկրորդ ասենք դրդապատճառը Ambassador Evans-ի մեծարման երեգոն է, ինչպես ցեզի ծանոթ է արդեն Ambassador Evans-ը, John Evans-ը մեր իրականության մեջ իր քնահատելի դրոշը դրավ եւ հայկական ցեղասպանության ճանաչման փաստորեն առաջին ամերիկյան վարչագահի ներկայացուցիչը հանդիսացավ, որ բացենի պատճանցավ ցեղասպանության իրողությունը եւ Չադակովը հանդիսացավ, որ Բուշի վարչագահը նաեւ իր ղարքին ճանչնած ցեղասպանության իրողությունը եւ ադիգա որտեքրե ամերիկյան քաղաքականության մեջ։ Այս զույգ առիթներն են անշուշտ, որ այսօրվան այս երեգոն բացառիկ երեգոն է։
Many months ago, when we decided that the Eastern region needs to have a banquet to show the communities what the good work that we do, the planning had begun, and what we want to get out of it, we want to show the good work that the ANCA and the organization does. For several years, the Western region has had a very successful banquet, and looking at the looks of our turnout tonight, we have new faces from all communities, from all areas that have come to support the ANCA this evening, and it's wonderful. And we're expecting a wonderful program later this evening with Ambassador John Evans, which we're going to be honoring with the Freedom Award. And it's to give insight as to what the organization does. We've never had a formal banquet or gala like this at least in New York City, for several years. That we want to start doing this as routine, to raise money for the organization so we can expand to new areas of development like in Tennessee and Georgia and Louisiana, areas where there are Armenian communities, and we want to strengthen those roots so that we have strong chapters all throughout the United States. And I think if we all look around us this evening, we'll see that it's amazing. There are so many supporters that have come this evening.
Հանդիսությունը, որի գլխավոր իմաստներից մեկն էլ հատուկ պատվի արժանացնելն էր Հայաստանում Ամերիկայի Միացյալ Նահանգների նախկին դեսպան Ջոն Էվանսին, սկսվեց ավանդաբար Հայաստանի եւ Միացյալ Նահանգների քայլերքերով Հուշեր Պստիկյանի կատարմամբ, այնուհետև Տերանուշավան եպիսկոպոս Դանիելյանի աղոթքով եւ հանդիսության ատենապետ Զոհրաբ Թազյանի բացման խոսքով.
It is with great pleasure that I welcome you tonight to our first of many ANCA Eastern Region banquets. It is truly a wonderful feeling to see so many of you, our supporters, here tonight. You fill our hearts with gratitude and pride for answering our invitation to share this evening in which we honor our friends, report to you on our recent accomplishments, and speak with you about our yet unfinished journey. You are truly partners in the cause of helping Armenian nation. As you will hear this evening, our report is a good one that speaks of many positive accomplishments which we have been achieved during the past year. But you should treat our report for what it is, a progress report, and a report which speaks to all of us about the work which yet to be completed in the months and years ahead. There is still much work to be done. We are ready and willing to man the posts and to go the full journey with you. With your continued support, we will not and cannot fail. Our goal is to strengthen the Armenian nation and the republic which exists today, and to work towards that day when the bright sun rises over a free, united, and independent Armenian nation which includes all of our historic homeland.
Երեկոյի հանդիսավարն էր դոկտոր Արաչալյանը.
What a great year for the ANC activists and all of you out there who supported us. The ADL gets a call to get serious and get honest. House Resolution 106 has more than enough co-sponsors to win a vote today. If we have the courage and the Congress rises up, this will happen this year. And then our voices get heard when it comes to the choice of the next U.S. ambassador to the Republic of Armenia. That is one great year. We have to keep setting our agenda and our goals high. We need you, each one of you, to activate, educate, and motivate, and become the activists that you truly can be.
Հանդիսությանը ANC-ի Վահան Քարտաշյան պատվոգրին արժանացավ Վահե Ամիրյանը իր ծառայության համար Հայ ազգային կոմիտեի շարքերում.
Շատ հբարդ եմ կոմիտեին կորձունեութենեն, հաջողություններ են, գնեն, անոր համար հազար շնորհավորություններ, եւ շատ շնորհակալ ենք, որ գնեն հադիկա, կարևոր է։ Եվ մենք օգտվենք այդ հայ ազգի գործընթացից։ Եվ հադիկա գորախացնե ինձ եւ ինձ Բարդագան գտարցնե շարունակելու իմ նվիրատվություններս, իմ մասնակցություններս։
Մտքի եւ խոսքի ազատության պատվոգրին արժանացավ դեսպան Ջոն Էվանսը։ Ջոն Էվանսը փաստորեն իր խոսքի ազատությանը հավատարիմ մնալով կորցրեց իր դիվանագիտական աշխատանքը, փոխարենը ձեռք բերելով ազատ եւ անկաշառ մտածող մարդկանց հարգանքը։ Հայ համայնքի բացառիկ վերաբերմունքին ի պատասխան նա իր խոսքի մեջ ասաց.
No one owes me any thanks for what I said on the subject of the Armenian genocide. For me, it came down to a clear moral issue. No one had asked me to read into the history of this issue, which I did in some detail. No one asked me to speak out about it. Doing so was entirely my own decision. It was not a State Department trial balloon or plot, and it was certainly not a slip of the tongue. I knew perfectly well at the time what the probable consequences of my action would be, and I do not regret that action to this day. Donna and I left Yerevan just 1 year ago this month. Now that I'm again a private citizen, I'm free to speak to you tonight and to accept, in all humility, the Freedom Award at this first banquet of the ANCA Eastern Region. Thank you for that. In terms of astronomy, tonight is the autumn equinox, one of 2 times in the year when day and night, light and dark, are in perfect balance. And in keeping with the theme of tonight's dinner, building the foundation for a secure future, I think it's a good time to consider the balance of history as well. The balance between past and future, the balance between dark and light, all the while staying firmly on the ground, which after this wonderful dinner should be no problem. Let me remind you, though, that I am an Odar. I'm not Armenian. I'm working on it. I'm starting to say Evans, and that helps. But as I make a few points, I'm not an Armenian nationalist. I was born in Virginia, in Jamestown, or near Jamestown, where, of course, there is an Armenian connection through Martin the Armenian. But let me this evening just make a few points, and I'd like you to think along with me as I do so. Is the Armenian glass half full or half empty? That's the question. Let me at least tell you how I see it. Now, if we start with the genocide, and I know one could start much, much earlier, but if we start with the genocide, I think we can all agree the glass was not only emptied, it was shattered. But since 1915, let's look at what's happened. Of course, the tragedy and the heartbreak of the genocide was really multiplied by the double tragedy when the independent Republic of Armenia was absorbed into the Soviet Union. That was a multiplication, a compounding of the tragedy. And Armenians of all walks of life were scattered throughout the globe. They came to this country, they established new lives, they built their churches, married, raised families, did well in the professions. It was not easy, and no one seemed at first to sympathize with what they'd gone through. You know, Donna and I found a terrible thing in the papers belonging to our house in Washington, D.C., which was built in the war years as Washington's population expanded. We found a covenant, now illegal under federal law, but it was a covenant that bound the owners of that house not to sell to Armenians, Turks, Jews, and so on. This was the kind of prejudice that your community faced in those days, whether you knew it or not. But through the course of the 20th century, and we've discussed this a bit this evening in talking about Mr. Amirian's experience. Through the course of the 20th century, awareness of the enormity of that crime of 1915 and the years after slowly grew. You all know that although most Americans do not know, I mean unhyphenated Americans do not know that Ronald Reagan used the word referred to the Armenian genocide in 1981. The House of Representatives, of course, has already passed resolutions in 1975 and 1984, was it? There have been dozens of scholarly books, memoirs, oral histories, and so on. So the battle for recognition, as Samantha Power has said, has essentially been won in the court of public opinion, if not in the foreign ministries of many countries, including our own. So the glass, once shattered, has begun filling up. And today, as I understand from Ken, there are 226 co-sponsors in the House of Representatives for House Resolution 106. It's only a matter of time before that resolution is adopted. And in August, the controversy that broke out in Watertown, about which we saw in the video tonight, set off a chain reaction that led to a change of position regarding the Armenian genocide by the Anti-Defamation League, the American Jewish Committee, and other Jewish community organizations. Significantly, it was young American Jews who led that charge on the Jewish side. And I think this was nothing less than historic. Today, having been Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, we send our greetings to our Jewish friends and look forward to more cooperation in the future. But let me submit that the biggest thing that has caused the Armenian glass to fill has been the foundation of an independent Armenian state. This is truly historic. It may be a small state, but it is a free market state. It is an emerging democracy where all political parties, including, notably and close to your hearts, the ARF, are now free to compete for power, and they are doing so with enthusiasm. That republic where I served the United States proudly, is not perfect. There's a lot of work that remains to be done there, but we should be happy at its 16th birthday. That's truly historic. Next year, with great sadness, we will mark 20 years since the Armenian earthquake. As tragic as that disaster was, and I remember it well because I was involved in that in Washington, it raised the awareness of ordinary Americans about Armenia and became the catalyst for a major program of assistance which was engineered by the United States and continues to this day. Some of you who visited my office in Yerevan may have seen my collection of the Washington Post, the editions from December 8th to 10th, 1988. And you can see the progression in the headlines as it became clearer. First, it was Gorbachev, of course, was here in New York when the news of the earthquake came, and he had to hasten back. The first headline was Soviet earthquake. Then there was another earthquake in the Caucasus. And finally, the editors figured out this was Armenia. And I do believe that many otherwise not terribly, geographically challenged Americans first placed Armenia on the map because of the earthquake. And you know that that was the beginning of our assistance. First it was humanitarian assistance, and it evolved, and cumulatively it now is well beyond 1.6 billion. And the Armenian National Committee, ANCA, can take a large share of the credit for this achievement and for ensuring that Armenia has not been disadvantaged by current U.S. foreign policy, even after 9/11. Today, by the way, just today, Saturday, in Yerevan, the United Armenian Fund celebrated its 144th airlift to Armenia, bringing the total value of humanitarian aid assistance delivered by them since 1989 to $500 million. This is another milestone and another thing for all Armenian Americans to be proud of. Ladies and gentlemen, the Republic of Armenia not only exists, but is growing stronger in almost every dimension. Economy, population, and political maturity. It may still be only a teenager among states, but it is growing up to be strong and healthy. The demographic trends, which were very troubling, are gradually improving, with fewer young people leaving, more immigrants arriving, many of them from Iran and other parts of the troubled Middle East. The decision to amend the Constitution to permit dual citizenship for Armenians living in the diaspora was a good one, and will prove its worth, I'm sure, over the years. In this connection, it seems to me that it may be time to push again for a bilateral tax treaty, as ANCA started to do in 2004. By the way, I've spoken with the State Department about this. It's, of course, in the province of the Department of Treasury. They're very busy and understaffed, but I think this is something that should and will happen ultimately to the advantage of those U.S. citizen Armenians who are repatriated to Armenia and may come into a problem on taxes. As I draw to the end of my remarks tonight, let me say just a few cautious words about recent developments in Turkey. And I'm not an expert on Turkey. I read the news, I read everything I can. I don't speak Turkish. It was clear that the murder of Hrant Dink last January was nothing less than a tragedy for both Turks and Armenians and for all who care about democracy and free speech. It showed us that extreme nationalism still poses a lethal threat. But the recent victory of the Justice and Development Party, the AKP, in parliamentary and presidential elections, while it does not by any means signal an imminent shift in Turkish foreign policy, at least suggests that things can change in Turkey. In the long run, I believe, Turkey is bound to evolve in the direction of more democracy, and we should not close our eyes to this. Some Turkish commentators are already saying that the policy of denying the Armenian genocide has failed. I think the events in Watertown and the concentric circles that emanated from Watertown this summer sent a real shock wave, which we may not see it yet, but is having an effect. Surely the time will come someday, sooner or later, when Turkish society will have to recognize the genocide, and progress will be made in Turkey's relations with Armenia and with Armenians. Let me be clear, I'm not holding my breath, and you shouldn't. What's needed here, and what I commend to you, is the concept of strategic patience and persistence. Now back to the original question that I posed for all of you this evening. Everyone probably has their own view of whether the Armenian glass is half full or half empty. Now probably you expected me to arrive at the easy answer that it's half full. I'm not so bold as to say that that's the way it is. I'd say rather, each of us will have our judgment on how full that glass is.
Երեկոն ավարտվեց ANC-ի արևելյան շրջանի ատենապետ Տիգրան Կարլիգյանի խոսքով.
It is also important to note that one does not need a degree in political science or law to be an ANC activist. Our local ANCs encompass peoples from all walks of life, from blue collar to white collar to ivory tower, all working together towards a common goal, and this too makes us unique. Then there's the international aspect. Our activities here are coordinated and build upon similar efforts in Armenia and Argentina, Lebanon and France, Australia and Russia, the European Union and the United Nations. This gives us a reach like no other. 2007 has been a turning point in the activities of the ANC. It has seen us go toe-to-toe with the most wide-reaching, expensive lobbying campaign ever orchestrated by the Turkish government to prevent passage of the Armenian Genocide Resolution. And yet, we have succeeded in gaining the support of a majority of the House of Representatives and a growing number of senators. It has seen us peel away Turkey's allies in its denial campaign by, for the first time, making them pay a political and public relations price for supporting Turkey. The grassroots, activist-driven effort has informed the members and supporters of the Anti-Defamation League of the pernicious role played by the national leadership, and has caused these supporters, as Ambassador Evans mentioned, to denounce Abe Foxman and his policy. And this has not gone unnoticed by the other organizations and businesses and lobbies that have been complicit in Turkish genocide denial. It has also seen us lead a year-long fight to prevent the appointment of a genocide denier as U.S. ambassador to Armenia, a fight that has forced the president, a president who rarely backs down, to withdraw his nominee. And it has seen us firmly establish our presence here in New York City, with our regional high-tide activities being directed from this hub of media, human rights, academic, and foundation activities, with a new generation of energetic, capable professionals at the helm. But this work would have been impossible without your support. Your support over the years and your support tonight allow us to defend the right of self-determination for the people of Artsakh, to help build Armenia stronger economically and politically, to denounce Turkey and Azerbaijan's violation of human rights and civil rights and international law, and to fight for not just recognition of the genocide, but for reparations for the lives that were taken, and return of the lands that were stolen from their rightful owners, the Armenian people. Գեցե հայ ժողովուրդը, գեցե ազատ անկախ եւ միացյալ Հայաստան։
Հայ կաթողիկ եկեղեցվո հոգևոր հովիվ գերապայծառ Տեր Մանուել եպիսկոպոս Փաթաքյանի փակման խոսքով ավարտվեց ANC-ի առաջին տարեկան հանդիսությունը։ Տոնական հանդիսությունից հետո ANC-ի շարքերում մարտնչող կամավորների համար հաջորդ առավոտվանից դարձյալ շարունակվում է անդադրում աշխատանքը, որը մեծ ճկունություն, մտքի հմտություն է պահանջում հայկական հարցերը ամերիկյան բարձր ատյաններում ճիշտ արծարծելու համար։
It's very encouraging to see so many Armenians come together around a common Armenian advocacy agenda, the recognition of the Armenian genocide, the defense of Karabakh, the strengthening of Hayastan. So we're very pleased that we're joined by so many friends today, and we feel like it's just a building block for a future growth of our community, future growth of the Armenian National Committee.
Կարևոր մտահղացում էր դեսպան Ջոն Էվանսին պատվոհարգանք մատուցելը, մանավանդ այսօր, երբ նա հրաժեշտ է տվել իր դիվանագիտական առաքելությանը, մեր ժողովրդի վերաբերմունքը առավել ազնիվ եւ անաչառ է դիտվում։
Mr. Ambassador, it was a wonderful event tonight, and you were so spectacular in your designation of a glass half full or half empty. What are your feelings about tonight's event?
Well, it was a great honor to receive the Freedom Award of the ANCA, and it was also great fun to see a lot of old friends and talk to people. So I feel very pleased about this evening's event, and I hope that we'll be seeing some of the same people again in the future.
In having the glass become half full for Armenians, what do you see your role, if any, in this process?
Well, I think my role has been very minor. I think there are a lot of historical processes at work which make much more of a difference. I tried to serve the United States well as U.S. ambassador there, and we'll be talking about that in about a week at the Library of Congress, I and my 4 predecessors.
And so what is your future going to be in terms of the diplomatic service?
Well, I'm finished with the diplomatic service, but I am writing a book about the issue of the Armenian genocide, and I'll be hoping to publish that book perhaps next year. Both about, it won't be new history, but it'll be about the issue and what should be done about it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador.
ANC-ի աշխատանքներին հետևելու համար կարող եք երբեմն այցելել կազմակերպության վեբսայթը www.anca.org։ Կազմակերպությունը իր ազգային գործունեության մեջ կարիք ունի մեր ժողովրդի աջակցությանը։